All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for spending Tuesday morning with us for Consultants Corner. Today, we're going to be talking about the transition that's going on with Grants Gateway and the statewide financial system. You may have seen the acronym SFS, and this has to do with the NSGP grants, which, of course, we're still waiting for budgetary decisions in Washington before the total amount available will be disclosed, much less the application process for us all to run through. But we do know at some point that will be resolved. So this is a good opportunity to begin that preparation so that when that is disclosed, you can move forward with your grant application. So David Pollock, the founding chair and a senior advisor to CSI, is going to be walking you through that, as well as all of the different procurement resources that CSI has for you once you've actually won a grant for your institution. So with that, let me turn it over to David. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Good morning, everybody. Well, I'm just showing our porthole, the CSI homepage, which is located at CSI-NY.org. And you can just go there, and the top of the page is a nice group of pictures, and you can links to some of the articles that mention CSI. But if you scroll down, there's a wonderful sidebar here in green that is essentially the menu of what CSI offers. So starting on the top is the home page. Then we have a cybersecurity page for those of you who don't know. We have a terrific cybersecurity specialist who will do an assessment for you and arrange for training. And security grants update, we'll get to that in a second. Pre-qualifying in New York, we'll get to that. Post-grant assistance, we'll get to that. But just to keep going, we have summer camps, trainings, consultants, trainings. Just to show you for a second, you click on trainings, you'll see the kinds of trainings we offer. And if you see something, what you can do is to fill out our form, which we'll get to, and look at what's available. So we have Consultants Corners archives, which are the recordings of everything that we see here. We have emergency resources, which is a broad range of tips that you can look at. And then finally, we have links to the New York Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services grant page and the Division of Criminal Justice Services grant page. And it just so that if you need that information, it's available. You know where to find it. And finally, there are buttons to request assessments, trainings, visits, and procurement assistance. If you just want to contact us, or you want to get onto our distribution notification list. So all of this is available. Let's go back up to the top, and let's start with security grants update, because I know there are lots and lots of questions on this. So again, we always say that you should start now to get ready for the next round of grants. The rumor has it, and I'm sure everyone has this question in their mind. Many people heard a rumor that New York State was going to release their grant in December. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that it is likely that later this week or next week, New York State will release its hate crimes grants. And that, we don't know any more about it, but rest assured, if you're on our notification list, you will get an email with all the details we learned. So please make sure you're on our notification list. You probably are if you received the email for Consultants Corner directly. And you'll know when we know more about the state grant. Federal grants. Everyone wants to know about the federal grant. The problem of federal grants is not, whether there's going to be a federal grant this year, but the problem is whether there will be, the United States will have a budget this year. Remember that we were supposed to have a budget October 1st. It seems that Congress missed that deadline and they keep putting it off. They seem to be putting it off again, soon, because what's called the continuing resolution. In other words, a resolution that says, well, we'll just keep spending what we were spending last year. The continuing resolution expires and we're going to get a new one. There are some people who say that we might not get the grants applications available until as late as May. If that happens, and this has happened before, it means that you only have about a week in New York State to do your grant. So what we advise everyone to do is get everything together and make sure that you've done all the steps and you've even done a initial draft of your investment justification, so that if there's only a week to do it, all you have to do is to do the tiny little changes in your grant application, and then you can go forward. And I want to acknowledge that Rob Goldberg's on this call, and I always call Rob the father of the nonprofit security grant program, and he still has his fingers in the process. So that's our grant page. Again, we note that you must be pre-qualified. You have to have your assessments and you should be informed. CSI will do assessments every 3 years. And if you want a new assessment, just fill out the form. Jamie Matos, our terrific director of administration, will make sure that she follows up and with the paperwork, and then we can go forward. So those are the things that are available. By the way, here are our tips from last year and the whole tutorial for last year. And also, remember I said that we only do an assessment every 3 years? Here are instructions on how to update your assessment. So in the interim, obviously, if you have a grant, hopefully you're taking care of some of your vulnerabilities, or new vulnerabilities may have arisen. So those are the kinds of things that are available right on the Security Grants webpage, right here. Now, we spoke about pre-qualification. Let's do a deep dive. This wasn't complicated enough, obviously, and New York State wanted to give us additional new challenges. So remember there used to be Grants Gateway? Well, now Grants Gateway is SFS. Forget about what it means. It's SFS. So you click here. They have a very robust help function, but just remember that I've called the 855-233 number several times. I've never gotten a person live. You're probably better off emailing them and leaving your phone number and asking them to call you. They are very helpful with questions. The next challenge is, this is very confusing, because New York State considers you, who are just innocently sitting there trying to apply for a grant to upgrade your security, not doing anything, and they call you a vendor. Well, okay, we know we're not vendors, but they don't. So just learn to live with the fact that when they say vendor, they mean you. That's number one. Both grants, both the state and the federal grant, will require pre-qualification through the SFS process. Now, as of today, if your document vault was pre-qualified as of December 15th, 2023, you're in pretty good shape because they've transferred all of your documents from Grants Gateway into SFS. Not all your documents, but these documents. That means that you will be getting notices that certain documents expire. Remember, this has happened to people who have been in the system, several years, but for people who just were pre-qualified last year, that your financial documents expire every year. So financial documents are your 990, and essentially your budget or your audit. And remember that religious corporations do not have to submit a 990 or other financial data except for their budget. That has to be submitted every year, and you have to update. By the way, I've looked at it. It's easier to update in SFS than it is in Grants Gateway. That's the good news. Now, what happened to my old documents in pre-qualification? Well, they've been moved if you were pre-qualified. If you were not pre-qualified, that's the bad news. You will have to start over. It will probably be possible, to download your documents from Grants Gateway, and then just upload them into SFS. But the state has told me that they're going to do a tutorial on how to do that, but SFS is just getting started today, and they have other problems, and so they haven't gotten to our questions yet. So if you, I've spoken to a lot of people who said, well, I already have all my documents in one folder and I can just re-upload them. You can upload them. And you may have received an email on how to sign into the new system. Here's a sample letter. You'll get a letter that says, welcome to the SFS vendor portal. I hope you didn't just trash that because you're not a vendor. Don't be confused. This means you. It has the legal name of your organization. It has a bunch of features that are not relevant. It says you can get paid faster, submit invoices, get purchase orders. You don't do any of that. Ignore that piece of it. And you just kind of take the pre-filled ID number that they give you and a pre-filled password, and you go here. I'll go, and you just sign in, and with that stuff, and you follow the instructions. If you think you had a Grants Gateway portal, try calling the help desk, and they may be able to give you access information. If you're not registered, there's information. You just click these plus and minuses on how to register. Again, this is how you register. Pretty straightforward form. Remember that it has to be notarized, and you can use electronic notary. It will want a substitute W-9 form, which again is very straightforward. And, basically your name, rank, and the serial number. And here's some hints to fill out the form. This is what they're asking for. Your organization type. You're a not-for-profit organization. You're not a tribal organization or a governmental entity. That's what you use. I just have a lot more information. This is a placeholder. Hopefully they'll give us more information. We're waiting for more documentation from New York State. Please check back here. And then finally, organization information and required documents. This is what was required in Grants Gateway. There's updated guidance here, but you should understand that nonprofits were not required to register for everything. Provide organizational information just to so that you can understand that this is confusing. There's a lot of information. Not-for-profits were required to submit some of these things, but not all of things. So, staff code of conduct. And we have a template to help you put one together. Fiscal and internal control policies. In other words, you should have this person who writes the check should not be the person who signs the check, and things like that. Conflict of interest policy, that's required in New York State. We have a sample here. A whistleblower policy, it's another New York State law that you have to do. And again, religious corporations have to have certificates of incorporation, 501c3 status. It used to be, and I don't know if it's still true, that you could provide your IRS recognition letter if you have one. If you don't, you can satisfy this requirement by uploading a signed letter on organization letterhead stating that you are exempt from, as a religious corporation, you're exempt from this requirement. Really straightforward. It lets you, uploading that letter satisfies the requirement. You have to have bylaws. Form 990, you will also need a, signed letter for that if you're a religious corporation. And by the way, reminding you that if you were pre-qualified as of December 15th, all of this was forwarded into SFS. You need financial statements and a balance sheet or an audit if you have one. And Charities Bureau of Religious Organizations, and you can be exempt from this. If you're not, here's the instructions on how to become exempt or how to find out what your registration is. Depends if you're a religious corporation or not. I know this is a lot of information. Do people have specific questions? Dov, did you see any questions on this?
There were a couple questions, but I think you answered as we went along. But real quickly, everyone, and good morning. I think the main messages that we're sharing today is to clarify that Grants Gateway is shutting down, and now all pre-qualification, to reiterate what David said, all pre-qualification is now through this SFS system. And the reality is, as David's been doing his homework and digging in, there are a lot of questions still remaining. There will be similarities to how you did pre-qualification previously, but there's still some things we're trying to get the final answer on and be able to provide you guidance. That being said, even some of the questions that we're seeing in the chat, David just went through some of the stuff that is literally posted and explained on our website. I don't think we should get too into the weeds of Prequal itself. We've done previous webinars on that. Please see previous Consultants Corner or specialized webinars that David has done talking about Prequal. But I think as a starting point, if you get to our website, you'll have a lot of your answers right here, almost verbatim, how it can help you navigate the system. We'll keep at it. We'll keep trying to find that information. And we anticipate that this will go live soon. And if you need to start and you want to apply for the upcoming grants, this is definitely where you should make your first steps. A couple of questions. Yep.
Yeah, just so you know, all of these, our help on what was required is based on Grants Gateway. We don't know if that still applies in SFS, and I can't get that question answered yet because they're busy reopening the system today. So after the system is open, I'll try. But you should know that not only am I confused, but I checked with the person who will probably be reviewing your applications, and she hasn't been given any information either.
Right.
So
that's the
our
world
advice, if you're not pre-qualified, start now and just upload the stuff. And, because if you wait till May, you're never going to get it done. They say very specifically, allow 15 days for pre-qualification. I've helped some groups do it, and I think I'm done and dusted, and they should be pre-qualified, and it bounces back. You forgot to, cross this T or dot this I. So just leave time to do it. And what we hope is that you can get started now.
Right. And you mentioned May. May would only be the timing if there's a later NSGP. If you are applying for the state grants in New York that we assume will be opening in the coming weeks, though nobody really knows, this needs to happen now. There were some questions about what if I had already started in Grants Gateway? I mean, that was very clear from the SFS email and what David spoke about. If your pre-qualification was not current, you need to start again in SFS. If you didn't receive that email, maybe you're a new applicant. David also went through and showed how you can start that process. Can you jump in there again, David? If someone did not get that SFS email, they're a new organization, they've never applied for grants before, how would they get this process started?
And again, if you think you had something, had an account, and you didn't get the email, write to the help desk here.
How quickly are you seeing the responsiveness? That's a question a lot of people.
That's usually within a day.
The reality is
I don't know. I can get answers in 15 minutes, but I don't know if that's because it's me or.
Right. And, as you all navigate this, the reality is we'll still be at the tip of the spear trying to get questions. So if you really are struggling with an question and can't get an answer, please reach out to us or your RSD and we'll add it to our questions. But most importantly, recognize SFS, I don't believe is fully live yet. I think they're launching it today. So you might not be able to upload everything, but definitely in the next coming days, it should be more ready for you to submit your documentation. I do not know if they call it a document vault or not, but whatever the case, whatever they call it, I don't know if you have any more information on that, David. The reality is most information is similar with some nuances to pre-qualification in Grants Gateway. Let's unless there's a little bit more you want to discuss on SFS, David.
I think it's time to jump. Now, every page of our website, the CSI website, has this green navigation box, sidebar. So if you go to post-grant assistance, your organization won a New York State or federal security grant, what should you do next? And what we try to do, number one, Dove made an incredibly useful flowchart. And he divided the whole process into stages. And what we did is we kind of transferred the stages into buttons here. And we hope that you can do. Now, before you get started, remember, it's a complex process. Take it one step at a time. Common mistake is to underestimate the amount of time each step will take. and keep good records. Those are Dove's watchwords. And Ilya, jump in whenever you feel like, you feel appropriate. And one of the wonderful advantages of doing Consultant's Corner is you can see we have a how to get started episode, and we just put it right on the website. And remember that the grants are administered by 2 different agencies, and that really can get you started. Now, in the federal grant, you have to do an EHP. How come I hear so many groans out there? Getting through the EHP. Okay. So what we've done is, here's the screening form, here's the DHSES tutorial, and here's our Consultant's Corner. We have 2 episodes on that. And then we can go into soliciting and scoring bids. So a lot of people are up to this point. Again, we put up the New York State documents. DHSES is really good at providing tutorial documents. DCJS has not provided any, have they?
Very minimal. But I'll add this, it's a good question. The guidance we provide and what we're doing here is we're kind of combining everything we've learned assisting and coaching on grants for almost 20 years, using the guidance provided by DISHES and a little bit by DCJS. But the reality is we know more about the guidance from DHSES. So we provide our guidance, being that whether you have a contract for the federal grant, the NSGP, or you have a contract for the state hate crimes grant, or both, the reality is the actual contract you sign is similar. So we provide our guidance based on DHSES, but we've often seen that DCJS interprets things a little bit differently. Your best answer for everything you do, like we advise throughout all Consultants' Corners, is if you have that question, ask your rep. They're there to help you. But what we try to do is bundle these resources in our guidance, in our videos, in a step-by-step manner, so you can have it all there. This section alone, this soliciting guidance, I'd love to see David walk us through it now. This is actually where Jamie, myself, and the RSDs get the most questions about advertisement language, about requirements for that.
Stop for a second. So that what we have is that advertisement language. What we have is the DHS tutorial. So you go to advertising. Here it's right here. So, and we have basically taking out of the tutorial the rules. Reasonable period of time is 3 days. What is not appropriate to special interest groups. So that's why they don't allow advertising in Jewish media. Religious periodicals in another language or through internally generated mailings and publications. And here's sample ad language that we've come up with. So again, this stuff is all here. And it's here to, help guide you through the process. Sorry to interrupt, but it's. So, what we did is, we basically have all of these, establishing the scoring matrix. Well, I've gotten that question lots of times. And here's a sample. And you just, it's an Excel spreadsheet and you can change it. one thing that, we always recommend is you might want to, make these columns more specific, experience, qualifications. You can say knowledge of our current systems. And you can weight it because it makes sense if you're extending a current system, you want someone who can extend it. They don't have to put in a new system. You don't want to have two separate video surveillance systems up and running. You want everything integrated. Anything else, Dov?
Just recognize this scoring matrix is our designed example, very simple. It's basically putting comparison between the bidders and how you're scoring them. This is what the state agencies want to see, that you did a fair bidding process. But again, this is an example we provided. You do not have to follow this manner in any way, but just recognize that the state wants you to keep this for your notes. You don't need to submit it for approval, but you will need to keep it for your notes. Alternatively, the language David shared for the actual ad, that was language provided by DHSES, and we just posted it here. That is language they suggested. So you follow that template, you're in a good place.
So, to make specific something that Dov referred to, you're not required to get this approved, but we recommend that you make your program manager your partner. And you ask, Mother May I, in using the name of the game, not to be sexist, you kind of say, "Hey, we're going to do this. Are you okay with that?" If they've approved every step, they're going to improve your reimbursement request quicker, and you're not going to run into any problems. If you surprise them and you've gone against the rules, there are people who say, well, we can't reimburse for that. You can submit for some other item, but you just had a bidder that was not allowed, or you didn't go through the process, and we can't reimburse for that item. So that's happened. As long as you're in touch with your program rep, they're usually going to lead you in the right direction. So, again, sealed bids, scoring matrix, and what's your RFP? And by the way, Ilya has really generated a lot of documents here. And, we have, a consultant corner episodes on this topic. So that's what we can do. That's what we have up there. And we advise you to poke around. If you're in the procurement process, a lot of this stuff is available. And the kind of procurement language, can be very helpful. We just sent some bids to Ilya, and he came back, with the suggestion when he looked at them, oh, well, it's not clear what kind of warranties and guarantees they're providing. It's, how there are monthly charges for a lot of the equipment these days, for license, for access control or video surveillance. Well, make sure that, the prices are there and they're explicit, and what they cover and what they don't cover. So these are the kinds of things that we help with, and there's stuff here, and we're here to take your questions. And our RSDs are the first stop. Call your local RSD, regional security director. Glad that many of them are on this webinar. ask them. If they're not able to help you, Jamie, Dov, and Ilya and I are here to answer more questions.
Yeah, thank you, David. I see, besides the questions coming through on the chat, and we'll get through some, you know, obviously we've been through a lot of this content and zeroed in on those specific items, uh, getting vendors, doing ads, etc. And today's session was not intended to cover all those iterations because you can never answer all of it or enough of it. But the kicker is we've now collaborated that all into this website that links you to the information, that links you to guidance, to our webinars. And on top of that, like David just said, we're still always available, whether you're RSDs to answer your questions. We do one-on-one procurement calls if necessary to help you get past that bump. There's always something more. It's impossible to cover everything. The reality is, we just advise, just approach whether it's your pre-qualification, especially with the new SFS, or it's actually navigating your post-award procurement. Take it step by step. There's a lot to digest here. And believe it or not, we've actually thinned out from some of the guidance that's out there, but then there's a lot of gray areas as well. So what we see is the most common questions in support area is where we, went a little deeper on this website. And as with everything else, as we find updates, we'll add it, we'll tweak it. There's always some changes with two agencies navigating grants. There's always some confusion and maybe some different approaches to what's required. But just keep referring back to the website, our team, and of course, like David mentioned, your state rep. So in the last few minutes, and thank you again, David, everyone, remember, you need to be pre-qualified. So start approaching that SFS process. It sounds like they do use the document vault terminology. That question came across a few times. They do also call it that. Is it the same thing? Most likely similar. But let's dig through a few questions. There were some questions about collecting if you posted your ad, because we went there, and we're not gonna, again, please look at the website, see our previous videos. But if you need help finding bidders, and some people are at that stage, especially if you had the 2019 hate crimes grant from DHSES, right? That was before it transferred to DCJS. You might have got a short extension, so you're in that bidding process. So I want to make sure we answer that. Once your ad is posted according to the rules, and DISH is strict, so once it's posted, you can share it however you see necessary in other publications. It's not that you're not allowed to put in a Jewish publication or some other type of periodical. It's that you must also have the check mark of the more broader posting. Once you do that, you can post wherever you see necessary. You can share with vendors. You can talk to a neighboring institution who they used. Then also you can share with us, share with your RSD an image of your ad, not the word, but an image, so we know that you actually followed the guidelines, and we can share with our networks. We can't refer anyone, but hopefully by sharing to the network, we get a few bites. Unfortunately, it's been very common. You've heard us say many, many times on these webinars that most organizations, almost none of them get responses from their ad. It's more a requirement for the grant process, but you still will always need to get those 3 bids as you navigate. David, you catch any questions in the Q&A you want to jump in on? Please do. There's a wide range of questions, but we want to make sure that it's focused on SFS and the website itself. There's a question.
Email went out in late December.
Right. Actually, I believe they sent a few emails, and the calls that Jamie and I did with the RSDs and one-on-one calls with organizations, almost every organization is just, what is this? What is this SFS email? What are we dealing with? Simply, let's reiterate what the beginning of today's session was about. Grants Gateway is no longer. All pre-qual in SFS. And you need to do pre-qual if you're a New York State organization and you want to apply for any of the grants that we help you with, the federal NSGP or the state hate crimes grant. You need to be pre-qual, and then you need to have your assessment. Those things you should be doing right now. We hope that the hate crimes grant will open in a few weeks. If you
Someone
didn't get,
someone asked, they sent an application to SFS and didn't receive a response in a week. Is that normal? They basically just opened SFS, this part of SFS today, and they've been working, they've been focusing on opening SFS. They may not have gotten to this, but they do say expect 10 to 15 days. I hope it gets better, but we'll see how it turns out.
by step. There's a very targeted question here, right? I started my grants gateway application, but I didn't finish. Unfortunately, it sounds like if that's the case, before the due date transition, I think they wanted it all to be done by mid-December. If you wanted your pre-qual to be transferred over, only if your pre-qualification was approved and finalized was it transferred over. So if you had only started and not completed, unfortunately, it sounds like you'll need to start again. But most of the documentation is similar. It's just a matter of uploading it in the correct manner.
Right. There is no longer a document vault. That's the grants gateway. You have to use SFS. I'm just going through the questions.
They might use that same terminology to be seen. Is it the same document vault? I don't know, but it looks like they are actually using that terminology, document vault.
If you didn't receive the email, again, just call or write the help desk.
All right, a few last questions, but please, and we'll finish a little before 11 today, but this is recorded for those of you that missed it. But again, jump on the CSI-NY.org to see this guidance as well as all the other things that CSI does. There's a question here. Can you solicit to specific organizations to bid in addition to advertising? 100%. You should, but get that ad there first. That's your checkmark requirement. Once you have that ad, Godspeed. Send it out there, search, ask your friends, and get those 3 bids. That's the critical piece. How you get there once you get the ad, you'll probably need to take a couple
You
steps.
just have to be very careful. If someone replies to your ad and you send it to, a specific vendor, you have to make sure that everyone gets the same materials. That's competitive bidding. So, if you're asking for, you have an ad and then you respond with more details, everyone has to get the same set of details. And it's advisable that if you're going to do a walkthrough for a vendor, set up a time where you can do a walkthrough with multiple vendors.
Gotcha.
I give everyone the same chance.
Very important. If anything, if you're reaching out to anyone, I would share your ad, say, hey, just go through the process the same as if you saw it in a paper. But again, I'd refer back to our Consultants Corner sessions on that topic specifically. I just don't know if we have enough time to get fully in depth into it now. There's a question about the NDAAs, the banned equipment. In general, this is for electronic systems, where they get networked, where there might be a backdoor, where there might be some other built-in bug or concern from foreign governments. That's kind of what you would focus on when you're staying away from NDAAs. It sounds like it's more focused brand-wise on cameras, but I would recommend any product that has some sort of camera or network connectivity to stay away from any of those type of brands. Whether or not even if you're doing, excuse me, a project from your own funds, I mean, it's not like it was just banned to make it difficult for everybody. It's banned because there is a vulnerability here. So whether the grant requires it or not, whether you're paying out of your own funds or not, I would stay away from those products. I know Ilya's on. I know if he has any more to add on NDAA, but that's kind of the CSI message with those products.
Yeah, I mean, someone said, asked a question specifically on Chinese vendors, and it's not all Chinese vendors. It's very specific vendors. And if you have a question, just reach out to your RSD.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to jump through the last few questions here. I'm going to read it verbatim. If it's not appropriate for today's session, we'll tell you where to get your answers. Can RFP state option of 3 primary doors to bid on that an architect chose so we can level the bids easier? If we just write a security grade door, the types of doors can be so different. If we give 3 options, then we aren't single sourcing. If this isn't allowed, where is the law in part 200 that explains this? So just in terms of bidding and leveling, the reality for many of your projects is you're going to get bids a little bit different. The more you design your front end RFP to specify what you're looking for, even your budget, we often recommend sharing your budget because otherwise you're really not going to be able to level anything, right? That at the end of the day, dollars is the easiest to compare. But say the specifications you're looking for. If a location, but you could also say or similar. And then you make the choice as the grantee whether you're going to select. Now, if they're not the same, does not preclude it. If the products recommended by the vendor that they're going to install are not exactly the same, it doesn't preclude it from being 3 bids. You say, well, we discounted this bid because it wasn't to the specs we wanted, is a fair, legitimate response of measuring and leveling that bid. So it's not about 3 exact same bids, but 3 bids, realistic bids for your products. That's where you should be focused more on. Next question, and David or Ilya or any RSD, if you want to add a little bit more, please feel free. Regarding the hate crimes grants and the MWBEs, right, the Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprise, must we search out a minority woman vendor if no one answers our ad? Well, you're getting into very convoluted territory. Fortunately, the only grant that still requires the 30% MWBE
As we
requirement
speak.
is the 2019 hate crimes grant administered by DHSCS. Right now, that hate crimes grant is administered by the Division of Criminal Justice Services, DCJS. We have a session early on in Consultants Corner, I think last year's opening session, explaining the different agencies. Nonetheless, that is the only grant that requires it. They're still always advised by state contract to pursue it. We won't get into that, but required is for the 2019 hate crimes grant that expires, just got an extension. It expired at the end of last year, and it has been extended for a couple more months into the next year. So the answer is yes. You must first, for DHSCS requirements, you must first get find an MWBE vendor for your first 30% of spending at least. They will not let you get into the other areas of your grant award, right? If it's a hate crimes grant, you have 50,000. They will not allow you to move on to your other projects till the first 15,000 is allocated to an approved MWBE, right? It has to be a state approved ESD, Empire State Development approved MWBE. So always just stay with your rep at the state. Is this vendor good for this project? By
the way, that's all of these things are where bid specifications come in. Are very, very helpful because you put in a bid specification. You must be a New York State, Empire State Development approved MWBE vendor is something that you put in. You put in, and you can, start with your RSDs and we can fill in the blanks. For example, a standard on a door so that everyone bids on the same standard of door. If they're not bidding on that door, if they come in with a different standard, that's a reason to question it.
Again, all this stuff covered in previous segments. I'm going to go through the last questions until I see now, and then because I know everyone has to get on to their day. How long does it typically take to get reimbursed? Fortunately, the state is bound by contract and basically law to reimburse you quickly. If you've done all the process appropriately, they are required to reimburse you in 30 days, and we have all seen this. So if you've done it right, you get reimbursed quickly. Next question. Is there an organization that will provide loans to religious orgs? Yes. Hebrew Free Loan. We've talked about this in previous Consultants Corner sessions. I believe there's information on our website, or reach out to your RSD for how to move that process. It's not the easiest process in the world either, right? They're spotting you money. They need to check some of your information beforehand. But yes, the short answer is there is a process to get a loan to upfront your money that will be reimbursed by the state. Will anyone review our RFP and get information we want to contract as long as everyone gets the same details? The reality is, as you share your RFP, you should make sure that all your bidders are getting the same RFP. Almost more important than we've learned as we help locations with RFPs to a degree, because it's a little beyond our bandwidth and capabilities, is focus more on the bids and the contracts you sign with your bidder and the language there, as that comes through, making sure that it crosses all the T's and dots all the I's that you want. Is the Chinese banned for state or just federal? As I mentioned, currently it's only banned federally, but it's banned for a very good reason. Because there are vulnerabilities to your organization, CSI does not recommend using those products, whether it's any grant or your own dollars. I would stay away from any NDA listed products. The state grants, the DHSPS has listed, FEMA has listed in their RFP for the NSGP what those products are. As well, if you've received an assessment from CSI, we also noted there what those products, those banned products are. And Seth has shared a link to all those.
Someone asked, until when is the 2019 hate crime deadline extended? That's not automatic. You have to talk to your program rep.
Right. All right, the last question for the day, and we will jump. Can we recommend the product? I assume you're meaning, can you ask for a specific brand? The grants do not allow you to ask for a specific brand, but you can list certain examples you want, and then list in your RFP or similar. That way, if another vendor comes with something similar with similar specifications and similar abilities, you can make an educated decision. But again, you're not allowed to do that under this grant, any of these grants, and just be mindful of that. So that language is important or similar. Again, our webinars are always recorded. We mentioned that multiple times on today's session, that the links are provided throughout our website. If you got the email to this webinar, you had a link to our archive. You can go back for years, and you'll see, even if you do, that the information has changed over time. I want to thank David, the whole team, CSI, Mitch Silber. Just the amount of information put together for the public here is almost monumental. That balance between how much is too much and that step by step is critical. David sharing the archive with you, and we're always here, whether it's a one-on-one call or for our resources. So with that, thank you very much. Dive in and good luck. And we're still here with you.